Everyone thinks laziness is weakness, but Carl Jung believed it was something far more dangerous, a hidden psychological trap that slowly drains your will to live. What if the reason you can't get anything done isn't because you're lazy, but because your mind has been hijacked? Everyone calls it laziness, as if it is simply a lack of effort. But psychology reveals something much darker beneath the surface. When you find yourself unable to move, unable to act, sitting with endless plans that never turn into action, you are not witnessing weakness. You are witnessing a battle between your conscious will and your unconscious fears. Carl Jung believed that what we call laziness is often the mask for something far more terrifying, a sabotage system hidden deep in the shadow. On the surface, it looks like wasted time. Underneath, it is your unconscious pulling every string, convincing you to stay still, because moving forward would mean confronting something you are not ready to face. The cost of this goes far beyond unfinished projects or late deadlines. It is the slow erosion of your spirit. Every day that passes with the same excuses, the same scrolling, the same promises to start tomorrow builds a silent weight inside of you. The weight of unlived potential. The world tells you laziness is harmless, just a bad habit. But the truth is that every moment of inaction compounds into a future where your opportunities vanish one by one. It does not announce itself loudly. It creeps in quietly, disguising itself as rest, as self-care, as harmless delay. But behind it is the shadow whispering, "Stay here. Do not change. Do not risk." Jung warned that the human mind does not avoid action without reason. It avoids action because action means transformation, and transformation means death to the old identity. That is why laziness feels safe, almost comforting. You tell yourself you are resting, but what you are really doing is hiding from the terrifying responsibility of becoming more than you are now. Think about the last time you sat down with a plan, fully intending to begin. Maybe you opened the laptop. Maybe you laced up the shoes. Maybe you wrote the first line of a task list. And then you stopped. Something in your body resisted, and you called it laziness. But if you looked closer, you would see fear. Fear that the result would not be good enough. Fear that effort would expose your flaws. Fear that movement would force you to confront truths you have buried. Laziness is never empty. It is always full of reasons. Reasons the unconscious keeps hidden from you because it knows that as long as you do not see them, you will not challenge them. Jung wrote that what we resist most is often what we need most. And this is why laziness is so costly. It tricks you into believing you're protecting yourself, when in reality, you're slowly destroying yourself. You think you are saving energy, but you are spending something far more precious. Time you will never get back. Each day lost to this invisible enemy is a piece of your life stolen. And the worst part? The longer you obey it, the stronger it becomes. Laziness does not stay still. It grows like a shadow, feeding on your compliance. The more you let yourself believe the lie that you will start tomorrow, the more tomorrow becomes a prison you never escape. This is not a simple bad habit. It is a psychological parasite. And if you do not confront it, it will drain you of the only thing you truly own, your chance to live fully. Here is the hidden cost. Every time you surrender to laziness, you are training your unconscious to keep you small. You are teaching your mind that comfort matters more than growth, that safety matters more than life itself. And while you remain still, time is moving without you. The real danger is not what you failed to do today, but what this pattern will quietly steal from your future. Because laziness is not harmless. It is preparing to consume you whole. Laziness feels like a modern flaw, but its roots stretch back to the very beginning of human survival. For most of history, wasting energy meant death. When food was scarce and predators lurked in the shadows, conserving energy was not laziness. It was wisdom. Your ancestors who sat still when they could, who avoided unnecessary risks, who stored their strength for true emergencies, they are the ones who survived. Those instincts are alive inside of you today, coded into your nervous system like ancient software. But here's the trap. What once kept your bloodline alive now keeps you imprisoned. In the modern world, food is not a hunt away. Predators are not waiting outside your cave, and yet your biology acts as though every step you take must be justified. Your mind whispers, "Stay still. Save your energy. You may need it later." This instinct, once life-saving, is now life-draining. It convinces you that tasks are threats, that effort is danger, that action must be postponed until it feels absolutely necessary. But in today's world, what is necessary rarely arrives until it is too late. Think of the countless times you have delayed action because it did not feel urgent. That assignment that could have been started days earlier. That conversation you postponed until it became unbearable. That dream you told yourself you would pursue when things were perfect. Each delay is your evolutionary brain protecting you from a danger that no longer exists. Jung would say, this is the shadow of evolution itself, the part of you still living in a world that ended thousands of years ago. And the result is tragic. A life wasted not by choice, but by programming. To understand how devastating this is, imagine a man who spends his entire life preparing for the future. He tells himself that tomorrow will be the day he finally acts, that once he feels ready, he will unleash his full potential. But tomorrow never comes, because the unconscious does not want tomorrow to come. The unconscious only wants safety, and safety means sameness. The man grows old, his days consumed by comfort, his opportunities slipping away silently. He calls it laziness. In reality, it is ancient survival instinct consuming his future. This is why laziness feels so heavy. It is not simply procrastination. It is biology fighting against consciousness, instinct fighting against intention. And unless you recognize this trap, you will keep mistaking an evolutionary mechanism for a personal flaw. The truth is, laziness is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that you are human. Every cell in your body is programmed to do less, to stay safe, to conserve. But here lies the horror. The world you live in does not reward conservation. It punishes it. While you wait, others move. While you save your energy, opportunities vanish. While you cling to safety, life itself escapes. Here is the paradox. What once kept you alive is now the very thing destroying your future. Laziness is not a moral failure. It is an evolutionary success being played out in the wrong era. Your body still believes danger waits at every corner, so it tricks you into saving energy, into delaying decisions, into waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. And yet, the world you live in demands the opposite. It rewards risk. It demands action. It punishes hesitation. Every hour you spend listening to that ancient whisper, you fall further behind in a race your biology does not even understand you are running. This is why so many people feel the weight of regret later in life, realizing they mistook safety for wisdom. Jung warned that instincts left unconscious will always control you. And laziness is the perfect example. Until you confront this programming, you are a prisoner of survival codes that no longer serve you. But the trap runs deeper than biology, because laziness is not just about conserving energy. It is also about avoiding pain. And that is where the shadow reveals its sharpest teeth. If evolution explains why we save energy, psychology explains why we avoid action altogether. Laziness is rarely about comfort alone. It is about fear. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious mind creates barriers not to keep us from effort, but to keep us from pain. What looks like simple procrastination is often the shadow at work, shielding us from what we do not want to face. Think of the task you keep delaying. It could be a project at work, a conversation with someone you love, or a personal dream you keep pushing into the future. On the surface, you tell yourself you are just being lazy. But beneath that excuse lies a truth you would rather not admit. The task is tied to fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear that once you begin, you will discover you are not good enough. Jung observed that people often mistake avoidance for rest. They believe they are protecting their energy, when in reality, they're protecting their ego. This is why laziness feels so heavy. It is not idleness. It is a battle between who you are now and who you are terrified of becoming. The shadow knows that once you act, you risk being exposed. It whispers, "Stay here, stay safe, stay small." And the more you obey, the stronger it grows. Imagine a student who refuses to start an assignment. On the surface, it looks like laziness. But look deeper. Each time the student thinks about starting, the thought of failure appears. What if I try and it is not good enough? The easiest way to escape that fear is to do nothing. Procrastination becomes protection. But the protection is an illusion, because the longer the delay, the heavier the fear becomes. Soon, the task itself turns into a monster, impossible to face. Jung called this shadow inflation, the tendency for whatever you avoid to grow larger in your mind until it feels unbearable. This is why laziness feeds on itself. 1 hour of avoidance becomes a day. 1 day becomes a week. And soon the task has grown so massive in your imagination that you can hardly look at it without feeling overwhelmed. Laziness is not about being weak. It is about being haunted. Haunted by the possibility of failure, haunted by the memories of past shame, haunted by the belief that you are not ready. The shadow takes those fears and magnifies them, convincing you that inaction is safer. But safety is the most dangerous illusion of all. Because while you sit still, time continues to move. Every delay is a silent decision. You are choosing not to risk, not to grow, not to transform. Jung warned that the unconscious does not simply keep us still. It actively resists growth. Laziness is one of its most effective weapons. And the more you believe the story that you are just tired, the deeper you fall into its trap. Think back to the times you felt paralyzed by something small. Maybe sending an email. Maybe making a phone call. The task itself was harmless, but your hesitation turned it into a mountain. This is the shadow at work. The mind protects itself by avoidance, and the longer you avoid, the more terrifying the task becomes. This is the cycle that drains your life in silence. You do not fail loudly. You fail quietly. In all the small moments, you let fear disguise itself as laziness. Jung taught that only by bringing the shadow into awareness can you escape its grip. Avoidance thrives in the dark. Once you name it, once you see the fear beneath it, its power begins to weaken. But here's the twist. The shadow does not only keep you from action through fear, it also deceives you with a comforting lie. It whispers that the solution is to wait for the right mood, the perfect spark of inspiration, the magical surge of motivation that will carry you forward. And that lie is the most seductive trap of all. We are taught to wait for motivation, as if action is only possible when some invisible spark lights inside us. But Carl Jung warned that this belief is one of the greatest traps of the unconscious. Motivation, he argued, does not come first. Action does. What most people call laziness is not a lack of energy. It is the illusion that energy must appear before movement. This illusion is powerful because it feels logical. You tell yourself, once I feel ready, I will begin. But readiness never comes. You wait and wait and wait while your life quietly slips through your hands. The shadow knows this, and it weaponizes it. It convinces you that you are wise to wait, that the right time is always tomorrow, that you must feel inspired before you dare to move. But in reality, waiting for motivation is the reason you stay stuck. Think about the last time you forced yourself to begin a task you dreaded. Perhaps you dragged yourself to the gym or sat down to write when you did not want to. What happened next? Within minutes, the resistance began to fade. Your energy increased as you acted. The very movement you avoided created the motivation you thought you needed first. This is the secret the shadow does not want you to know. Movement generates energy. Action creates motivation. Laziness convinces you it is the other way around. Jung believed this cycle is not random. He saw it as part of a deeper psychological projection. When you imagine that you must feel ready before acting, you are projecting your inner doubts onto the future. You are telling yourself that something outside of you must change before you can begin. It is a clever trick because it relieves you of responsibility in the moment, but it also ensures that you never start. You remain locked in the illusion of waiting for permission that will never arrive. Imagine a person who wants to change their life but says, "I'll start when I feel more confident." That person will never begin because confidence only comes through repeated action. Or the person who says, "I'll create when I feel inspired." Inspiration will not appear until they pick up the pen, the brush, the instrument. The shadow whispers that action must follow motivation. But the truth is the reverse. Action first, emotion second. This is why laziness is so deadly. It teaches you to believe a lie that feels comforting, but destroys your future. This is the hidden cost of believing in motivation. You live your life waiting for a feeling that will never come. You call yourself lazy, but the truth is, you have been deceived by a story designed to keep you still. Jung wrote that the unconscious resists change not with force, but with seduction. It tells you that you need to feel inspired before you act, when in fact, acting is the only way you will ever feel inspired. The people who accomplish the most are not the ones who feel motivated every day. They are the ones who move forward, even when they feel nothing. And here is the paradox. The moment they act, the motivation follows. Laziness keeps you waiting for permission that never arrives. Action gives you the energy you thought you lacked. But there is something deeper than this illusion, something far more dangerous. Because sometimes laziness is not about waiting for motivation. Sometimes it is about sabotaging yourself the moment success is within reach. What if laziness is not weakness at all, but a hidden form of self-sabotage? Carl Jung believed that the unconscious is not content with keeping us still. It also works to destroy our progress the moment we begin to move forward. This is why people so often quit when success is near. They are not lazy in the ordinary sense. They are afraid of what success will demand of them. Imagine someone who finally starts working on their dream project. They overcome months of procrastination, push through the discomfort, and begin to see results. Then, suddenly, they stop. They convince themselves they are tired, distracted, or uninspired. But beneath those excuses lies a darker truth. Success itself terrifies them. Jung taught that every step toward growth requires the death of the old self. To change is to kill what you once were. The unconscious resists this death with everything it has, and laziness becomes its weapon. Not to protect you from failure, but to protect you from transformation. Self-sabotage is the shadow's way of keeping you from becoming someone new. Think about the times you have walked away from opportunities at the very moment they became real. Maybe you landed an interview, but you did not prepare. Maybe you started building a habit, but abandoned it just as it was about to take root. Maybe you were offered love, but pushed it away before it could grow. These are not accidents. They are the unconscious working through you, whispering that success is more dangerous than failure. Failure keeps you the same. Success forces you to change. Jung believed that the deeper fear hidden behind laziness is not, what if I fail? But what if I succeed? And everything in my life has to change. This is why so many people cling to their excuses. They prefer the familiar pain of stagnation over the terrifying responsibility of transformation. The shadow convinces you that staying small is safe, that unfinished dreams are easier to carry than the weight of becoming who you were meant to be. Laziness, then, is not the absence of will. It is will turned against itself. It is the unconscious sabotaging the conscious, destroying your progress before it threatens the old identity. And the more potential you have, the stronger this sabotage becomes. People rarely sabotage meaningless things. They sabotage what matters most, because what matters most carries the greatest risk of change. Jung warned that the shadow will even disguise sabotage as kindness. It tells you to rest when you need to push. It tells you to wait when you need to leap. It tells you to quit when you are on the edge of transformation. And you obey because it feels comfortable, even logical. But logic can be the deadliest mask of all. Here is the cruelest truth. Your laziness is often not protecting you from failure. It is protecting you from power. The unconscious knows that once you step into your strength, once you claim your potential, you will never be the same again. And change terrifies the old identity that clings to safety. This is why progress so often collapses in silence. You are not too weak to succeed. You are too afraid to become the person success will demand you to be. Jung believed that laziness and self-sabotage are the shadow's guardians, standing at the threshold of transformation. They are not random slips. They are defenses. And unless you confront them, you will keep circling the same patterns, abandoning your victories before they can grow roots. Think about it. How many times have you stopped just short of breakthrough? How many times have you let something slip away? Not because you lacked ability, but because you let hesitation disguise itself as wisdom. This is the hidden cost of self-sabotage. It convinces you that retreat is safety. But every retreat leaves you smaller. Every delay leaves you weaker. Every excuse carves a deeper prison for your potential. And the longer you obey, the harder it becomes to imagine another way. But here is the good news. Just as the unconscious trains you into sabotage, you can train yourself into freedom. The cycle can be broken. The shadow can be confronted. The moment you act despite fear, you rewrite the script. And once you do, laziness begins to lose its grip. But breaking free is not easy, because the shadow will fight back. It will not simply let you rise. It will twist itself into new disguises, whispering even louder. And that battle begins with the smallest of choices. If laziness is not weakness, but shadow sabotage, the question becomes, how do you break free? Carl Jung believed that the unconscious cannot be destroyed, but it can be confronted, transformed, and retrained. The cycle of laziness continues as long as it stays invisible. The moment you bring it into awareness, its power begins to collapse. The first step is recognition. You must stop calling yourself lazy as if it were your identity. You are not lazy. You are trapped in a psychological pattern designed to keep you safe. Once you see that, you can begin to choose differently. And the choice always begins smaller than you think. Most people believe the answer to laziness is a surge of willpower, a heroic effort, a total reinvention. But Jung taught that transformation does not begin with giant leaps. It begins with small, conscious acts that weaken the shadow's grip. Imagine a person who wants to begin exercising but cannot find the motivation. The shadow whispers, "Not today. You are tired. Wait until you feel ready." The mistake is believing this voice. The solution is action so small, it bypasses resistance. Put on the shoes. Walk outside. Do one movement. Do it before you think. This simple step breaks the unconscious cycle because it generates energy. Jung often spoke of how the psyche resists transformation until it is forced to witness results. The shadow cannot argue with action. It can only argue with thought. That is why tiny actions matter. Each one is proof that you are not powerless. Each one weakens the illusion that you must wait for motivation before moving. The second step is awareness of pattern interrupts. Laziness feeds on routine avoidance, so you must disrupt it with new rituals. If you always scroll when anxious, replace the scroll with writing one line in a journal. If you always delay a task, set a timer for 2 minutes and begin. These actions are small, but they pierce the cycle, forcing the unconscious to retreat. Jung believed that repetition of such small acts slowly rewires the psyche, creating new pathways where action becomes natural. The third step is to reframe resistance itself. Most people interpret resistance as a signal to stop. But in truth, Resistance is evidence you are moving in the right direction. If there is no resistance, the shadow is not threatened. Laziness always grows loudest at the doorway to transformation. The more you feel it, the closer you are to breaking through. Instead of seeing resistance as a stop sign, you must see it as a map. It points to exactly where your growth is waiting. This reframe is powerful because it turns the shadow's own weapon into a guide. The final step is choosing identity over effort. If you continue to label yourself as lazy, every action will feel like rebellion against who you believe you are. But if you shift your identity, even slightly, the cycle begins to break. Say to yourself, I am someone who acts even when I do not feel ready. This subtle shift transforms effort into alignment. Jung believed that transformation requires a new story, one where the shadow no longer defines you. The truth is, you will never feel fully ready. You will never wake up one morning without resistance. But readiness is not the goal. Movement is. Every time you move, you claim sovereignty over your life. And with each small act, the grip of laziness weakens. This is how the cycle breaks. Not in one dramatic moment, but in hundreds of tiny acts that prove you are stronger than the shadow. Yet there is one more step, the deepest of all. Because breaking the cycle is not just about action. It is about becoming who you truly are. If laziness is the mask and avoidance is the shadow, then sovereignty is the cure. Carl Jung believed that the purpose of confronting the unconscious was not simply to work harder or accomplish more. It was to become who you truly are. Laziness is not the real enemy. Fear is. And once you face that fear, you begin to transform the very energy that once held you back. Sovereignty means self-rule, a life where you no longer live as a prisoner to instinct, avoidance, or the excuses of the shadow. It begins with awareness, but it ends with identity. Every time you act despite fear, you prove to yourself that you are not at the mercy of old programming. You are writing a new story where effort is no longer about survival, but about becoming whole. Imagine a person who once delayed everything, who lived their life waiting for motivation that never came. Slowly, through small steps, they break the cycle. One day, they realize they no longer need to fight themselves. Action feels natural. Progress feels inevitable. This is sovereignty in action. It is not about perfection. It is about alignment. Jung warned that the unconscious will never disappear. The shadow will always whisper. But sovereignty means the whispers no longer control you. You hear them, but you choose differently. And each time you choose, your power grows. Sovereignty also means understanding that laziness is not just resistance to tasks. It is resistance to transformation. Once you see that, you no longer waste energy hating yourself for being lazy. Instead, you recognize it as a signal. Every moment you feel that weight, you know the shadow is guarding a doorway. Step through, and you grow. Retreat, and you shrink. Jung wrote that individuation, the process of becoming your true self, is the privilege of a lifetime. Laziness is simply the dragon at the gate, testing whether you are willing to enter. The question is not, why am I lazy? The question is, what part of myself am I refusing to become? Sovereignty comes when you stop seeing laziness as an enemy to crush and start seeing it as a teacher to outgrow. Here is the final truth. Laziness was never your identity. It was the shadow's disguise, a mask worn by fear to keep you from stepping into your power. The path to sovereignty is not about erasing resistance, but about mastering it. You will still feel hesitation. You will still hear the whispers, but they will no longer bind you. Each act of courage, each moment of movement, is proof that you are not defined by avoidance. You are defined by choice. Sovereignty is choosing to act even when fear tells you to wait. It is choosing to create even when inspiration has not arrived. It is choosing to grow even when comfort begs you to stay small. Jung believed that this is what it means to truly live, not in the shadow of fear, but in the light of self-rule. And that light only grows brighter the more you protect it. Yet there is one last question you must confront. If laziness is not weakness, but shadow sabotage, what happens when the shadow itself learns to control you in ways you cannot even see? The answer is far more unsettling than you realize. In the next video, we will expose how hidden forces manipulate your mind and why most people never escape their grip.